After plenty of teases, announcements and several hands-on previews, it's finally here. The first ever handheld partnered devices between ASUS and Xbox, the ROG Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X. While I'll be taking a deeper look at the standard Xbox Ally at some point in hopefully the near future, today it's all about the more powerful and equally more expensive ROG Xbox Ally X. In this review, I'll be taking a look at how the device holds up under everyday use, from battery life, comfort, and of course, how the games perform for the average gamer. We'll also be checking out the already seen Xbox full screen experience in its shipping form. Does this handheld PC truly deliver a console-like handheld experience? Let's find out. As someone who already owns an ASUS Ally X, the ergonomic improvements to the ROG Xbox Ally X are, speaking frankly, excellent. I've tried a heap of different handheld machines, from the Switch 2, the Steam Deck, the Legion Go, and of course my original ROG Ally X. This new handheld has them all beat in terms of overall comfort. Yes, it's heavier than something like a Switch 2 and a Steam Deck, but it feels so good to hold. The team have done really good stuff here. The new Xbox pad-like contoured grips are super comfortable in extended sessions, and if you're a regular Xbox player, your brain is going to accept and love how it feels to hold overall. There are some oddities here though. New to the device is a dedicated My Library button, situated on the right side of the screen with a dedicated ASUS Command Center button on the left. These are all fine and useful, but they're placed above the standard Xbox menu and view buttons. I lost count the number of times I accidentally hit the library button when I thought I was pressing menu, and it kicked me out of the game I was playing, interrupting whatever I was doing. I do wish that they perhaps placed these the other way round, with menu and view at the top and the library and commander center buttons underneath. Xbox have also brought their impulse triggers along for the ride, and they work exactly as you'd expect them to. Under the hood, there's a pretty powerful handheld setup. We've got an AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme processor, and it's paired with 24GB of LPDDR5X 8000 memory and a meaty 1TB M2 SSD to store all of your games. The front-facing speakers are nice and punchy, and thankfully not too tinny either. And as the device has Bluetooth, you can pair your preferred headset of choice to it and listen to your game's audio privately, or just use the good old 3.5mm jack. That works too. The ROG Xbox Ally X ships with the same screen as seen on the previous Ally X, 120Hz 7-inch 1080p IPS screen. It's no OLED, but it is bright, with the only downside really being its size and the whopping great bezel around the edge. I would have preferred an 8-inch screen with the same feature set, but it is what it is. We've also got an 80Wh battery to keep those gaming sessions going for a decent amount of time, depending upon what kind of game you're trying to play, but we'll get into how it all holds up in a bit. Before we talk about the games, let's focus back in on the interface with which we'll access them and other digital storefronts. Microsoft have made a fair amount of noise about the Xbox full screen experience on these new devices. The intent here is to remove the very worst aspects of handheld gaming on Windows. The main issue, of course, being Windows itself. As someone who owns the original ROG Ally X, I can speak from experience. Any time Windows 11 appeared, from logging in, using the god-awful virtual keyboard, to various necessary background tasks that suck up precious system resources, gaming on Windows 11 handhelds was a painful experience to the detriment of the PC handheld market. Many PC handheld manufacturers created their own bespoke front-end interfaces to ease that pain. But as my father always says, there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig. The Xbox full screen experience is designed to usher in a more consistent and far more console-like way of interacting and playing games on these types of devices. Initial impressions are indeed rather positive. The intuitive keyboard interface from the Xbox console has successfully made its way across, and the new Xbox home screen is fairly simple to navigate with a controller. Pressing the Xbox Nexus button brings up a compact game bar, which is very reminiscent of its console cousin. This can be navigated by the right and left bumpers with a widget style approach that can be customized as you would like. Want to track your system's performance? You can turn on a performance widget and it'll attach itself to the game bar until you choose to close it. Want to track achievements? Again, just turn on the widget. By default, the game bar came preloaded with irritating things most gamers won't want to see, like Microsoft's Game Assist and Gaming Copilot integration. Thankfully, you can deactivate and remove these, which naturally I did. ASUS's Command Center has now been fully integrated and provides quick routes for gamers to change the performance profile of the device, control input modes, and various other customizable options directly from that dashboard. You can also go straight into settings with options to connect Bluetooth devices, Wi-Fi, turn off your mic, and enable other widgets should you desire them. From the game bar, you can also launch directly into other digital storefronts, be it Steam, Ubisoft, EA, GOG, Epic. Launching into these shows the PC seams a bit, with splash screens and loading occasionally appearing in a very Windows-like interface. Steam's Big Picture mode is a godsend here and can even have customized animated intros when it first boots up. As well as supporting the inbuilt controller, the ROG Xbox Ally also supports some touch gestures. Swipe from the left and you'll pull up the Xbox game bar. Swipe from the right and you'll get Windows 11's notification center for some reason. If you need to interact with Windows, it is relatively simple to do, and a swipe from the bottom of the screen will bring up the Xbox Full Screen Experiences version of Windows Task Manager. Here you can see what applications are running and close them as needed, and you can also transition directly to the Windows desktop. Once here, you can change to the desktop control mode via the command center and use your right thumbstick as a mouse. Be warned, if you want to go back to the Xbox full screen experience, you can, but a full restart is required for the optimized performance gains. All of this is genuinely a vast improvement on what we had before, but after spending a week or so testing the ROG Xbox Ally X, I can't help but feel that it is still woefully inconsistent. It's easy to get lost as you navigate a somewhat confusing grid of clickable buttons, made worse by occasional performance issues where either A, it stops responding to any input, or B, hangs entirely, then just as you're about to consider restarting, replays all of the button presses you had done in a cacophony of animation as the system plays catch up. Yes, the performance gains of booting straight into the Xbox full screen experience are there, and yes, the UI is so much better than anything that has come before, and as such is very impactful, but regardless, it can't completely hide Windows 11 from annoying you every now and then. Through software, Microsoft are trying to force different UIs and different programs to work together, and the results just aren't always fantastic. Outside of all the marketing buzzwords and noise about whether this is or is not an Xbox, the primary focus, as always, should be on the games. With some seriously meaty specs and powerful technology in the ROG Xbox Ally X, I have been both delightfully surprised and a little confused by some of the performance I've seen. Yes, as well as native gaming, it obviously supports remote play to your local Xbox, as well as Xbox Cloud gaming, should you prefer to game that way for console-only releases that you own. When it comes to native games, I've tested a wide variety of titles, from classic indies to AAA behemoths, and for the most part the result is clear. This is an impressive machine, capable of delivering some surprising levels of performance. One quick caveat. In order to capture direct gameplay footage, I have the Xbox Ally X running into an Elgato 460 Pro, and I am running the majority of game footage you'll see here at the 17 watt performance profile. as this is likely to be the standard scenario for most gamers. I'm no digital foundry, so don't expect deep technical analysis here. For example, I'm not even sure if having the capture card and in effect another monitor plugged in affects performance of my games to any great degree, so bear that in mind. The other important thing to note is that you're seeing a recording of that footage, and it does not take into account the VRR nature of the screen on which you're watching the video. The other important thing to note is you're seeing a recording of footage that doesn't take into account the VRR nature of the screen on the actual handheld. What might look choppy on YouTube may look surprisingly good on that 7-inch handheld screen. For most gamers, indie games are going to be taking up the lion's share of the types of titles played on any handheld machine, and outside of some seriously unoptimized outliers, the Xbox Ally X handled pretty much everything I threw at it, with very little that disappointed me here. For any games that are Xbox Play Anywhere that you already own on Xbox, expect things like cloud saves and cross progression to be the norm, and when you don't have those things, you're really going to miss them. Whether you want to play Balatro or Blueprints on Xbox Play Anywhere, or Hades 2 and Shinobi on Steam, the Xbox Ally X handles these sorts of games really well. Most of the time you can even set the performance down to silent 13 watt and enjoy plenty of gaming time without having to put the device on charge. One game I tried that was a bit of an outlier was Giant Squid's Sword of the Sea, which isn't very well optimised for handheld play. It was pretty difficult to get it to perform well, so much so that the only way I could achieve a high frame rate was to set everything to low and set the screen itself to render at just 720p. The reality is that even though it's an indie title, some games just need more optimisation to run well on these sorts of devices. From a larger, more demanding perspective, the ROG Xbox Ally X does a surprisingly good job at playing AAA games on the go. From single-player open-world games like Cyberpunk 2077 or Assassin's Creed Shadows to Xbox first-party experiences like Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite, I was able to persuade the Xbox Ally X to consistently play these games at fairly decent frame rates on this 17-watt performance profile. Unfortunately, AAA gaming is where the console experience just starts to falter a bit. This isn't a console. It's a handheld PC, and as such you can regularly expect to experience things like shader compilation, irritating PC style notifications, and frankly occasionally lengthy loading times depending upon the game. Forza Horizon 5 on first testing ran incredibly well, however on later attempts to test and record more footage, the game repeatedly crashed while attempting to load into the open world. There was no error message or explanation. It simply worked one day and not the next. At a whopping 140 something gig, I didn't really fancy trying to re-download the game. Halo Studios, or previously 343 Industries, Halo Infinite runs well once you get into it and can tweak the settings a bit. But again, the PC nature of this handheld rears its ugly head. On every boot of the game, I would be confronted with an error message that the game couldn't find a supported graphics device, suggesting that the GPU in the ROG Xbox Ally X didn't support the minimum requirements. This notification couldn't be dismissed by using the built-in controller. I had to manually use the touchscreen. Once running through, I was able to get the campaign to hit 60 FPS and look pretty nice too. Halo's quite good fun on a handheld. CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 is a demanding open world title that performs, again, incredibly well on this handheld. Optimization efforts from the developer are well documented, with an inbuilt Steam Deck preset available to achieve reasonable performance. Without frame generation, the game achieves a reasonably stable 45 FPS thanks to the Xbox Ally X's VRR 120Hz screen, and it really does look remarkable. Turning on frame generation via AMD's FSR 3.1 produces a consistent-ish 55 to 60 FPS, but there's a trade-off in the responsiveness and how the game feels to play. From my point of view, I'd leave frame gen off and this one and take advantage of the Xbox Ally X's VRR screen. Insomniac's Spider-Man Remastered is extremely performant on the handheld and looks and plays great. While it's perfectly playable at 30 FPS 1080p, you can actually drop the rendering resolution down to 720p and achieve a near 60 FPS target if performance is more important to you. Obviously, if you're an Xbox fan and you haven't yet played some of Sony's console exclusives like Spider-Man, God of War and The Last of Us, the ROG Xbox Ally X is certainly a viable way to do so. EA's Battlefield 6 is another surprisingly performant game on this capable handheld and makes Battlefield 6 on the go a genuinely viable option. Initially, I had a number of concerns as the game frequently had problems in booting up, including a missing DLL file error, as well as other PC issues. While I was able to solve these sorts of problems, they may stump a console-first player with daunting registry edits required to get the game they want to play running. This again shows the very PC-like nature of the device, and I think many console-only players are going to struggle with these sorts of problems. Once I'd fixed it, Battlefield 6 on the go became plain sailing, and from a performance perspective, if you're running the game on the handheld's turbo mode, 60 FPS is more than possible. I think we've established thus far that despite the naming conventions and marketing buzzwords, this is a PC. It comes with a whole heap of caveats and general usability issues that from a console purist's perspective can't be ignored. However, this also means it comes with a large number of benefits and options to tweak and adjust the experience to your liking. As an open platform, it also means having the freedom to indulge in other methods of entertainment, including looking back to video game history. After a bit of research and tinkering, I installed a program called EmuDeck and supplied myself with a 1TB SD card to give myself some extra storage. This neat little program helps to enable system emulation across a multitude of classic retro consoles, enabling gamers to play a huge number of classic titles from console gaming's past. I've been using the ROG Xbox Ally X as my daily gaming device for the better part of a week, and I've put in some serious hours on this thing. For the majority of my indie game playing time, I was able to push easily past the 4 to 5ish hour mark without the machine dying on me, and if a game was performant enough using the 13-watt silent profile, sometimes significantly longer, which was a genuine surprise. AAA games are significantly more demanding and see the battery drop much faster, but even then you should be able to squeeze a couple of hours and maybe a bit more out of some of the more demanding titles before you'll need to plug the ROG Xbox Ally X back in for a top-up. Again, Windows 11 rears its head when it comes to putting the system to sleep, and I've had some frustratingly inconsistent results. One night I didn't shut it down and just put it to sleep, and when I awoke 6 hours later it had lost just 2% of the battery. Amazing. The next night I did the same thing. It lost 20% while I was asleep. Not so great. Pending further improvements, my advice would be to just shut this thing down at night and not rely on Windows 11's sleep mode. One big thing I've noticed is a lack of font and UI size increases in games. Many titles have UI elements that are just too small to comfortably read on a 7-inch screen, and it can be very frustrating depending upon the game's visual design. Hopefully that's something developers will bear in mind going forward. And one other thing I'd like to note is I do love how versatile the ROG Xbox Ally X is. Besides being able to dock the device and plug it into a monitor or TV, I'm also able to plug my X-Real glasses in and play on a giant virtual screen, which made for an excellent Battlefield 6 experience with my own personal TV to enjoy the game on. Damn, I look cool. So, should you pick one of these up? Should you go for the cheaper Xbox Ally? I'd love to test how capable the Xbox Ally is in practice compared to this more powerful device, but sadly we weren't able to source one in time for this review, so no comparisons from me unless that changes in the near future. I find that device interesting because its price point is closer to something like the Switch 2, which is more palatable. But if you're on the fence, is the Xbox Ally X the handheld for you? It honestly comes down to the sort of gamer that you are. If you're deep within the Xbox ecosystem and love the idea of playing your Xbox games from this generation on the go, maybe? If you utilise services like Xbox Play Anywhere and like the idea of accessing multiple stores and building your own PC game collection, it certainly is cool, if an expensive option. But you should prepare to deal with all sorts of PC and Windows 11 related issues that can and will crop up should you jump on this bandwagon, and not expect a true console-like experience. It certainly won't replace your Xbox console. The ROG Xbox Ally X. Is it an Xbox? I don't think so. It's a $1,000 PC handheld that has a distinct Xbox flavour. It's a capable and extremely comfortable PC handheld with some great design ideas that bring Xbox and PC closer than ever before, and it is one of the best experiences to date. Despite that software effort though, Windows 11 is still the primary cause of many of this machine's woes, even with all the freedom that the more open PC platform provides. It's certainly an interesting transitionary step for Microsoft and Xbox, but I think it needs a few more updates before the potential is fully realised. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video review, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and truly, if you value having an independent outlet that's focused on your favourite place to play, consider supporting XboxEra directly on Patreon. Just head to patreon.com/XboxEra, and we'll see you next time.